It is your man, GamingAubs here. With another one. And another one. Shout out to DJ Callie. So, topic today. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but just now got to it, peeps. So, prior I gave you information on how to make a resume, right? Now I'm going to give you some insight on how to interview. Now, who am I? Well, I've worked in HR, mainly recruiting for 6+ years. That's who I am. So, who better to give you some tips and tricks when it comes to the interview process? Now, there's no really trick to interviewing, but I'm going to take a page out of the lead attorney. If you ever go to his YouTube page, you'll see that image. And what does that stand for? He does it on all his starting pages, right? It's to be quiet. Peeps, be quiet. But in this case, I'm going to tell you something that's going to basically make your life so much easier, especially if you're not getting second interviews and you're not getting callbacks for offers. Okay. Now, this video is not intended for your PhDs, your MBAs, your accounting, your management interviews, and it sure the heck is not for technical interviews like your computer programming software engineer. They actually have a whole new type of interview from even your MBAs and PhDs. This is for entry level people. Your people that have entry level skills, they're just trying to get a job because they just want to just work a strict 9 to 5, no bells and whistles. Just go in there, your manufacturing workers, your call center people. This is all for them, entry level. So now that I got that out of the way, let's get into the tips. No fancy graphics. Maybe that'll come later when I have a little bit more free time. But here's some tips and tricks. Okay, number one, do not talk a lot. Listen, people that know me know that I'm very quiet and stick to myself, right? We know that about me. But when you're in an interview, and I say be quiet, I don't mean that when they ask you a question, you don't say nothing, right? Funny, funny. But let me explain something to y'all. Think about, think of it as you're at the bench in the courthouse, and you're being cross-examined, or you're being you got someone asking you questions, basically. So you're in the courtroom. One of the things that your lawyer is going to tell you, they're going to brief you on what to say, what not to say, right? They're also going to tell you not to give a lot more details. Just answer questions directly and as short as possible. For questions that require, or that I can say require, for questions that, um, or so you have open-ended questions, you have closed-ended questions, right? So these are things that you need to know. These are things you should have been taught. So open-ended questions are questions that you can't just say yes or no to. So if I ask you, well, how do you feel about your interview? You can't say yes or no because that would not make any sense, right? It's an open-ended question, right? So you have to explain. There are questions out there that are just closed questions, and you need to keep them closed. What does that mean, right? Basically, if I ask you, do you like the color red? That's a yes or no. And when you answer that question with yes or no, that's it. There's no, don't say nothing else. So you're in an interview, and the person asks you, well, do you like the color red? And you either like it or you don't. To say, no, I do not, and then that's it. Don't say nothing else, because what a lot of you all tend to do, and trust me, I know this because I've asked. Not this is just an example, right? Trying to make it easy for you. I give you a real world question. I'll sit there with a candidate in my desk and I'll ask them. Um, First thing I always ask is, what happened at your last job? So that's a open ended question. I'm gonna get to that in a second. The next thing I'll ask them is, so did you like your job? If I ask you that question, it's a yes or no. Do not go into detail unless I specifically say, well, can you break it down for me why you didn't? Right? Yes or no? Because what happens is y'all say, no, I didn't like it because, and then you go explaining, and then you're singing then you're singing like a canary. So, and some of y'all don't know how to lie. And even if you do know how to lie, you really don't know how to lie well. And then us as recruiters are hearing this, and we're just like, yeah, this person ain't going no, they ain't getting a second interview. Nor am I going to place this person out to work. Listen, if it requires a yes or no, just do yes or no. Period. That's it. Nothing else. Okay? Don't say nothing else. That's it. Now I got that out of the way, peeps. Sheesh. Let's get into your open-ended questions. So just like in the courtroom, your lawyer is basically going to tell you, hey, when they ask you a question, all you need to do is just give a summarized version, right? Unless they ask you to go into detail. Don't add any additional details that we discussed, right? Because if you don't know about the courtroom, a lot of times they'll ask you a question, and if you don't stick to the script, you start adding other shit to it. Now you've opened up Pandora's box for the cross examiner to start cross examining your ass, and now you're digging up, and they gonna get you. Trust me. Just like so, let's go back to your interview process. If I ask you what happened at your last job, what answer should you just say? You could just say, "Hey, I ended up quitting because they just didn't have the benefit package I wanted, and I found another job that did." Simple. That's all you gotta do. Oh well, me and my manager, we didn't see eye to eye. I tried to work with him. I tried to take the steps to. I tried to go over to the next boss above him, talk to him. Nothing could be resolved, so we just decided it would be best for me to part ways. That's actually a more educated question answer. It's a little bit more advanced for y'all. But let me tell you this. This is what the typical answer I'll get is, well, they told me to do something, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't think it was right, and blah 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 blah. And then I'm like, oh okay. So what did they tell you to do? Well, they wanted me to sweep, and I didn't come there to work to sweep. I was like, oh okay. So you had to sweep. So was that your main job, or what was your main job? Well, my main job was to run machines. But see, they wanted to. They just. I don't know. I guess they didn't like me. Or blah blah blah. I'm gonna keep asking questions because I just want to get to the heart of why you quit your job. How much? In that whole statement right there, I have learned that number one, if I send you out to a client and they ask you to do something that's not your main job, I know you're gonna get an attitude with them. I know that you're probably gonna quit. Also, it seemed like to me you had animosity towards your bosses, right? Because you just spilled that information. All I did was ask why you left your last job. So you're giving them more information than you should. And what I'm trying to tell y'all is when you do an interview and they're asking you questions, don't just answer right away. Take a moment, clear your mind, relax, and then formulate an answer that is a summary, right? Well, me and my boss didn't see eye to eye on certain things. I tried to talk to him. We just couldn't come to an agreement. I went above his, talked to his boss. Nothing really came of it, so I decided it was best to part ways. A lot of times, interviewers are not going to ask you anything else other than just that. They hear that, they're like, okay, that makes sense. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that you probably won't, and these are just caveats. You'll probably get an interviewer that will ask you, well, what couldn't y'all see eye to eye on? Now, I'm not going to get into this topic. Maybe I make another video on advanced skills when it comes to interviewing. But you don't want, again, the whole ideal of coming to an interview is to sell yourself. Sell yourself. Make it to where they're looking at it and they're like, dang, I kind of want to hire this guy because, and they list the steps. That's what you want to do. You want to sell yourself. You don't want to lie about it, but you want to sell yourself. That's the whole concept of what you want to go into the interview, right? The other thing too is that I will tell you that there's some companies out there that will casually talk to you, right? This is a very smart tactic. They'll just talk to you casually. They'll ask you about your family. Again, summarize. They don't need to hear about you going through a divorce. They don't need to hear about your past 20 boyfriends that's treated you wrong and da 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 da. All you gotta do is say, well, I'm a single lady. I'm just, I have a daughter, me and her. We go and do this. And that's pretty much it. Just, taking care of her, and then leave it at that. You want to think positive things, right? A lot of you all have this tendency to just spill all the tea. Yeah, y'all spill the tea. The reason why they do that, and I'm just gonna be blunt. It's kind of I hate this tactic, and usually it's not the recruiters that are asking you are doing this. It's usually the managers. When you go and actually interview with a manager, they will just casually talk to you, right? And the reason being is because they want to see what type of person you are. Because, see, if you're going around telling about all your problems and such, guess what's going to happen? You're probably not going to get hired. Why? Because now they know that you have a lot of chaos. They see that you might be one of those that if you're telling me all this personal stuff and I don't even know you, think about what's going to happen when you start working for us and get to that level 2, 3 months down the road where you've gotten to know people. Now you're spilling all your business, and then and I'm not gonna get into work ethics and environment, but you want to keep your business life private, not private. I'm sorry, business life and your personal life separate. That's another video. We'll go into that later, maybe. But what you should do is give them something that they can say, "Oh, that's kind of cool." If you like to working out, let them know, "Hey, I like working out. I like going playing golf. Sometimes I hunt with my dad." Talk about stuff like that. Be more positive, right? Don't go in there talking about problems and things that's going on in your life. Don't do that. Okay? Don't do it. Like I said, it's a good tactic that managers use. It's just how it is. Okay, gotta deal with it. Okay. The only last thing I could give you some tips on. Sometimes companies have standard questions that they ask everybody, right? Uh, some of those questions are gonna be, and I wish I could think. I've been asked these questions even during the interview process thousands of times, right? Sometimes they'll just ask you, tell them a time where you had to work with a difficult person. They'll ask you, well, tell them a time where you had a deadline and you knew you couldn't meet it. What did you do? Sometimes they'll ask you, how do you deal with stress? Um, those are scenarios where they want you. This I'm just going to tell you right now, because a lot of people when they get asked this question, they go off into tangents, into they go into the metaverse. I don't know what they're doing, but yeah, they do stuff. I don't know. I don't know where y'all going. Come back down to earth, okay? Come back down to earth. When you get asked those questions, basically what they want you to do is think of a time, and they will usually tell you, think about a time at one of the jobs that you was at, whether it be your last job or a job prior, where the situation occurred. Okay, now I hate to say this because I had to learn this the hard way. With these type of questions, if you never actually experienced any of this stuff, just say, I have never experienced this. I tend to work well with everyone, and even the people that seemingly maybe, uh, even if you don't necessarily work the greatest with someone, just let them know that, I'm able to work with virtually anybody. Just let them know that. Be truthful, be upfront, but don't go into a whole lot of detail, right? One question I get asked a lot at jobs is, how do I handle stress? And I'm like, I don't deal with stress. That's not a thing for me. And I let them know, even at Walmart, right? I'm working at Walmart as an HR clerk. That was one of the questions they asked me. How do I deal with stress? And I'm like, I don't have stress. And I told them, and I actually explained it. Don't do this. Don't follow my lead. But I told them that I don't get stressed out, because for me, what I have found is a lot of people make situations stressful, right? They tend to make things stressful rather than just going out. They have an issue, find a solution to it, resolve it right then and there, right? But those questions, just be truthful, right? If you have experienced a stressful situation and you overcame it, talk about that. That's what they're looking for. They want to see, because you're going to face challenges at every job. They want to see how you actually handle challenges. Are you the type that's just going to walk out, right? Don't tell them that you face a stressful situation and you say, you know what, I'm going to quit. I walked out. Because you're not going to get hired, peeps. Come on, what you do, you're self-sabotaging your own interview. Don't do those things, okay? All right. So those are the tips. Keep your answers short, sweet, direct. Don't go into the metaverse. Don't go off into tangents. Don't walk off into the distance. Stay on the path, right? Your answers should be of those that are in a positive light, but don't lie, right? Because I'm going to tell you something. If you lie, there are certain interviewers like myself that if we feel like you're lying, trust me, we're going to walk you around and make you start digging holes. Trust me. Done it before. So don't do it, okay? So, hope y'all learned something. Post your comments. Let me know some of your interview questions you've been asked, and maybe I'll do videos on those. If you've been asked interview questions, if there are interview questions you don't understand, let me know. I might have the answer for you and how to answer it. And don't go giving me questions that Walmart be asking, because I'm gonna tell you right now, Walmart is probably the worst company where they ask you questions and none of the questions makes, for me, doesn't make sense, because there's actually other alternatives to their problems that they're presenting that you could actually do. So I'm just saying. But give me real, like, you was face to face and they asked someone, an interviewer ask you a question. You're like, wow, I didn't know how to answer that. I might can help out. Anyways, peeps, I'm out of here. Y'all take care. I am gone. Peace.